Hey everybody, this is Will at Five Guys Movies and Fries. I'm joined today by our good friend Knack,
Hello.
Joe,
Hey there, how's it going?
and Jeff.
Yo.
Our fifth boy has left the show for a while, but that's okay. We're still gonna have a good time. He's here in spirit.
No, he said he took his spirit with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's using that spirit to make great content.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing more needs to be said about that then. We'll just pretend that he never existed.
Not changing the name.
And not changing the name. Five Guys, Movies, and Fries. We do have the fries with us this time, so there's that. But yeah, today we're going to talk about a movie that's kind of been on everybody's mind for the last few months. This is one of the bigger movies these days. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Basically, a Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the universe or herself. I'm not entirely sure because the synopsis cuts off there on the Google search. So we're just gonna go with that. It's a fantastic cast, obviously. Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Su, and Huy Quan, who we all know from, I believe, as the young boy from Indiana Jones. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Data and the Goonies.
Yes, the best. Yeah, they all kill it. This movie's fantastic. Let's just dive right into it.
All right. Well, I enjoyed the movie. It's fine. Fucking, I wanted to get another watch of it this week. I watched it again a few days ago because the initial time that Jeff and I watched it, I was tired as hell. I really didn't absorb that movie nearly as much as I should have, and I still technically haven't. Like, it's still gonna get watched again sometime soon, just so I can kind of tear things apart.
There's
Take
a
a look
lot
at
going on.
the smaller things. There is a lot of stuff going on, but no, I like the cast. I like how the multi-dimensional aspect isn't used like in a typical fashion as you do in as we've seen in any fucking comic book movie or all these fucking multiversal flicks we have nowadays. It's all just focused on Michelle Yeoh's character and her struggle just to adapt to life, whether mostly with her daughter. But
Yeah, it's almost like it's used just to put them front and center and like the story front and center. You know, it's not as big of a plot item as it's used in other movies, like you said.
that's it. Yeah.
Which is great. It works so well, I feel.
I guess just other basic initial thoughts. I like Jamie Lee Curtis. I like seeing James Hong in just like anything because I just recognize his face from so much. Big Trouble in Little China, fucking many others. I remember I think I
Kung Fu
also remember him
Panda.
from an X-Files episode. Yeah, great cast, good story. The effects and the camera work is really good. It's a very acceptably wonderful movie.
Two feels good for you, Nick?
What's that?
Two feels good for you? Not enough doom and dismay, maybe?
No, I don't need doom and dismay in my movies, but it helps.
I know you. Yeah, I definitely have to agree with some of the camera work. Fucking exceptional camera work for sure. Just like even just that like simple shot of the washing machine, just looked amazing. And like I've seen that shot before in a few different movies, but like I don't know, the color composition there looked really good and it fit the movie really well. And I don't know how did you guys like the set dressing a lot? I thought that the sets were like fantastic.
Yeah, the production that goes into the movie is on point.
Yeah. It almost feels like, what do they say, like Oscar bait or whatever. Like you can tell like they put everything into this movie to try and pull awards. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because it makes for a really good movie. But
Well,
I mean,
it's relatively cheap for what was made.
oh yeah, holy shit! Only 14 to 25 million budget. That's like pocket change, you know?
It grossed 139.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Ooh.
Pretty good return of
You
investment.
got initial thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, a lot. I I really like how the mechanism of this movie services the plot regarding Evelyn and her family. I like how we can see the multiverse used as a reflection of the struggles that she has with focusing and empathizing with the members of her family. And then we can see her daughter's nihilism represented by the bagel and how she's trying to get her mom to understand how she's struggling because she feels like her mom's struggling in the same ways. Plus, this movie's really funny.
Yes.
This movie cracks me up.
Just
That fight with those butt plug trophies.
oh my
I
god.
swear to God.
And they pulled it off too. In any other movie you'd be like, this is cheesy as fuck. But it fucking works so well here.
The movie Was I Wackoon Waymond Again had me rolling on the floor.
I fucking dude, what like the very first time when it cuts to like their daughter's girlfriend and she's like doing those breathing exercises at the girl. I was like dying. Like yeah, go ahead.
The delivery of these characters in this movie really sunk in for me on this watch. Like seeing them hold on, what was the actress's name? Stephanie Sue?
Yeah.
Her delivery at the end of this movie is such a solid gut punch after the rest of the movie that we got and the journey that they take to get there. Like instead of it being the big fight moment that really gets to you, instead it's the moment when they're next to the car and they're just like being real and raw with each other. Like that's the soul of this movie. Like that's really, I think, what elevates this movie beyond others like it.
Yeah, agreed.
I also think Waymond's character is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He has a huge impact in the story, but also not a whole lot of impact in the plot, I guess. Like he's just kind of in the background a lot of the time. I like that Alpha Waymond was kind of a piece of shit, like a little bit. Like he just abandons her the moment that he thinks that she can't do what they need her to do.
Well,
And,
he's seen he's seen 1,000 Evelyns die or whatever.
No, you're not
the
the
Waymond
one.
that we
Sorry.
start the movie with, he's the one who has the most impact at the end of the movie. It's because she adopts his way of thinking that she's able to like finally connect with her daughter and like make it past all the enemies at the end of the movie.
Speaking of the enemies, those fight scenes, holy shit. Even just that first one, where he's using like the fucking fanny pack to beat the shit out of those people.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of homages in this movie I really liked too. I really like I can't remember the name of the director, but the guy who made In the Mood for Love, like Chungking Express. The scenes that we get where it kind of cuts to that kind of atmosphere, I was a huge fan of. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts, anyways.
Well, I guess I'll go. Well, I think it's good. I get that people love it here. What I appreciate a lot about it, the low budget, that it blew up, it revived careers, and got all this attention. I've heard some great things about the editing, how it was done in iMovie, or essentially a similar program, which is what I use to edit these episodes. That's pretty crazy. Joy's costumes were just great. I was on board initially with the setup, the setting. I loved their family dynamic. It felt very modern, very real. They seem like they're actually middle class and not TV middle class or like movie middle class. I was on board with the elevator scene when Alpha Waymond gives Evelyn the rules to universe hop or whatever you would call it. I thought there was an interesting mix-up situation with the divorce papers and the rules when she wasn't quite sure if she was talking to Alpha Waymond or the real Waymond. And she was talking about the universe rules and he was talking about the divorce papers, and they were both talking to each other about different things. That was a really great scene.
Yep.
After that, I felt like it was just like a Marvel movie, and the humor doesn't land for me. Yeah, we can get more.
See that.
We can get more into that. But what do you think about it, Will?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was also very tired when I watched it last night, but I still enjoyed it, and only the last like 20 minutes I was kind of like really getting to that point where I was like, I'm tired. But I still finished it and really enjoyed it. It's just if you could see a picture of my notes, you can see them get progressively more like shittily written as I get more tired. Because I was just like, yeah, whatever, like pinky finger fighting, LOL, and it's all like scribbled and shit. Yeah, I don't know. We covered the camera work already. Like I said, I thought it was exceptional for most of the movie. All the fight scenes were fantastic. I really liked how they did the Matrix, like downloading essentially. You know, like in the Matrix, oh, I know kung fu. Like that was pretty much what we had going on here, but done in such a unique way, where you're just basically like pulling an aspect of another multiversal self of yours into you. Like I loved that. That's such a the entire premise that this movie kind of revolves on is such an interesting concept. And especially as we get to know more about like the universe and universes around us, and multiverse theory seems to be more and more likely, and it's possible we're living in a simulation of one, or you know, some kind of strange, you know, universe happening, I guess you could say, like that. Like it's interesting to see these movies kind of dive more into that kind of stuff. Obviously this probably isn't possible, but maybe it is. Who knows? I don't know. I love how the big bad is just
It's
her
not
daughter.
Will.
Huh? What's that?
It's not Will.
It's not. Oh man, I
Yeah.
was really hoping. I think this would make for a like probably the sickest video game of all time if you could pull it off. And with the way that AI is getting so good now, especially with like procedurally generating things, and I was watching this video, for instance, on the new Unreal Engine, and the procedural generation that they use in there with AI is unbelievable. We're getting to that point where creating a video game that is essentially this movie would be possible. And I think that would be probably like the best video game ever made. Because you could just switch to different versions of the character you're playing, or if the AI is good enough, just different versions of you. And then, I mean, then it pretty much is real, right? Because once VR is indistinguishable from real life, you know, it's pretty much real life at that point. So we're getting there. We're getting pretty close.
Make a good point.
That's just something that I was thinking about as I was watching the movie. I was like, this would be a pretty sweet video game. But yeah, I got to agree with Jeff. I really like the humor. I like how this movie did a lot of unconventional things, and I wouldn't say necessarily like twists, but like unexpected. Like when everything part one shows up on the screen, it's just like you didn't see that coming. Not that that means a whole lot, but it's kind of cool that they separated it out like that. Didn't see her daughter coming as the evil one until like, you know, it's obvious. I liked that they did that, and obviously didn't see it coming either.
Evelyn doesn't really understand what's going on with her daughter until very late in the movie.
Yes.
Like even after she reconnects with like her actual daughter, she's like blaming Joku Tabaki. But anyway, she's blaming the big bad for the fact that her like daughter is gay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's just not putting it together.
And she's like, "You think that this is all about that?" I don't know what else to say. I didn't write down a lot. I was pretty glued to this movie the whole time. But I really liked this movie a lot. I thought it was pretty great. What other kind of thoughts do you guys got?
Well, I definitely think Act 2, which I'm assuming is the act that Joe probably has the most trouble with.
Sure.
I would argue that there's a relatively well-paced drip of like family drama and family scenes and those connections and those touchstones throughout, to where it doesn't feel like we're just getting spammed with fight scenes. You know what I mean?
I have kind of two big issues with it. I feel like the humor is just like this quote unquote random style of humor, like Rick and Morty, Deadpool. That's one of the big things. And the other thing is that it's sort of overly sentimental. Like there's all these little unearned emotional scenes. Like every time they interact, it's a little emotional moment. It's supposed to be a cathartic moment for these two characters. And I just feel like they're kind of exploiting people's emotions in that way. And it's unearned.
I don't know. I don't really feel like any of them touch base until pretty late in the movie. Like even when they connect in a way, it's like undercut. When the mom and the daughter are talking in the closet, it's like played like they're finally starting to connect and they're finally starting to understand. And then we get the rug pulled out and the mom is still way off base.
Yeah, yeah. That's the kind of stuff I have issue with. It's just everything is an emotionally charged scene with their interactions. I feel like most stories have, ebbs and flows, hills and valleys, but with this one, I don't know, it's just too many childhood montages that are supposed to be sentimental.
I was just gonna say it does run at a relatively fast pace, and I think because it runs at that pace, I could agree that I wouldn't hate more build for those moments. I think if I'm understand where you're coming from,
Exactly, yeah.
but I don't think that it's necessarily poor because it doesn't have those moments. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't have hated to have more of those moments, but I
Yeah,
also
I'm
go ahead.
like I said before, I think it's good and I get why people like it. I'm kind of being a contrarian because it's such a hyped movie. I feel like it's a little bit overhyped and I want to push back against it.
That is in your very nature, Joe.
Because
It is.
A24 is such a esteemed studio, and for them to do something that seems more in line with like Deadpool.
See, I know we refer to A24 as a studio. I still hold them as like more of a distribution entity than a studio because
Right.
they're essentially taking on work from other studios and distributing them. So
That's fair. But
yeah,
still,
that
when you
just
see
goes-
that logo, it brings.
yeah, it brings an expectation. It does. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I got to push
With
back
the
just
movie
a
I've
little.
seen.
Got to push back a little bit about the humor. I just don't like it. Like I feel like there's this rule in the movie. You got to do something random to universe hop or whatever you would call it. It's just so dumb. Like you got to pick your nose or stick something up your butt.
I'm
I
actually
kinda
with
love
you on
that.
that. I'm actually kind of with you on that. Some like it does feel like they have to pull from a pool of different fucking techniques or jokes to find one that lands with the scene, and it doesn't. So, some of them stick, some of them don't, and that's essentially how I see shows like fucking Family Guy and Rick and Morty. Is it just throw it? They're, even though they landed on possibly the best pick of the pool for whatever they're going for, not all of them. Few of them land for me. Very few of them do.
Gotcha.
Like the jokes.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
butt plug scene. Let the fucking
Oh, I thought that shit was
it's wild. It's wild and it's great, but it doesn't fucking make me laugh out loud. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how some of that's like a little like, all right, come on. But I don't know.
Listen,
I definitely didn't think of that stuff as like are you guys saying that like the way that they have to use it to universe hop, to verse hop, like jump or whatever, like that doesn't make sense? Because
I'm
No,
not. I'm
it's
not
just
necessarily saying it's bad sci-fi because
okay.
it's supposed to be a comedy.
Well, I don't even know if I'd look at it like that. Even like I think even if you take like the comedy aspects out of it, it makes sense from a sci-fi aspect because everything they have to do elicits some kind of intense reaction from the human body, right? Like he has to give himself like paper cuts, multiple paper cuts to jump that one time. Or like you have to get fucking blasted in the ass with a butt plug to do it, like or a fucking dildo. Like that's I don't know, those kind of things elicit a pretty big response of some kind from the human body, which it almost, maybe they're like trying to say like you have to put yourself into some kind of minor shock or something to do it. I don't know. I think that
if you're
makes
looking
sense in universe.
Well,
but
I
if you're
actually
looking at
do
how
think.
it's used in the movie as a delivery system for like jokes, and those jokes don't land. You know what I mean? There's a lot of them in the movie. If that doesn't
Yeah.
really do it for you.
Yeah, you're gonna hit a few where they don't land. That definitely tracks for me for sure.
I will say something though. It does commit. That butt plug scene.
Sure. Yeah.
It continuously cuts to those
Close-ups.
things.
The
Yeah, those
close-ups of
trophies
what's
hanging
embedded in
out of
their
their
asses.
fucking
Yeah.
cheeks.
Yeah. She's like holding them at the end, and she's just like, oh, just drops them.
Well, it
I don't
stayed in
know.
his
Maybe
butt
I'm just
for
an
way too
idiot.
long.
The third time we cut to it that I like actually elicited a response out of me because I just couldn't believe that they're just committing that hard.
It definitely it definitely felt like it's for a multiversal movie, it stayed in its universe really well. Like it established the rules, and it was like, here's the rules. Yeah, they're pretty fucking wacky, but I mean, we made some rules for you so you can follow along, and we're gonna stick to them pretty well. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel
Go ahead,
like
Joe.
hot dog fingers is just something that like a 7-year-old would come up with.
But it's so funny.
I
They're like
know.
sticking the hot dogs in
The
each other's
noises.
mouths, and
I
yeah,
have a
it's
theory. My theory is that they came up with the family dynamic and the universe hopping, even though it's not technically hopping into other universes. They came up with that first, and then there's like a pitch meeting where they were all saying their funny ideas, and someone said, "Hot dog finger universe. Everyone in the universe has hot dog fingers." And it got a big laugh in the room, but I just don't think it's that funny in a movie.
it's not that funny, but I mean,
It's silly. It's silly. It's more silly than funny. That's what I give to most of the jokes, the like the physical jokes in this movie, is that they're more silly than funny to me.
Definitely subjective.
Yeah. I pull up the Blu-ray. I wanted to see this scene again. I feel divided about the scene where she's learning to use her pinkies as super weapons, and
it does the Captain Falcon punch noise.
Yeah, that's again, it's like silly jokes, but when it's the moment where the grenade goes off, I felt like when the grenade detonated, it should have been a launch for I should have been a moment for Evelyn to just like launch an attack, just go into an attack mode, but instead everybody just reels from the explosion of the grenade, and it's very lackluster. It's very deflating. I know this is really small stuff, but that grenade scene did not fucking deliver. It set something up and did not deliver at the end for me.
I could see that. Yeah,
I felt that should have broken out into mega fight scene as soon as that fucking grenade went off, but everybody just sort of like takes the brunt of the explosion and then starts fighting. It just caught me off guard. I felt weird about it. That's all I'm saying about it.
There's definitely a level of like suspending your disbelief.
Yeah.
For this clip.
It's funny too, because like I definitely don't feel like this is a perfect movie. Like I really enjoyed this movie, but I'm not going to rate it as high as I usually do other movies, which will probably blow the listeners' minds, as they know I just always do 10s out of 10s. But I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily deserves all the accolade that it's gotten either. You know, like it is really good, but like, does that just show how starved we are for like a really good movie? Like in America, I guess, I don't know. We're looking at this from like an American lens.
That could be the case, but at the same time, I feel like it's better, even though it is kind of a Marvel movie in a way. It's one of the better ones.
Yes, absolutely. If this was set in the MCU, this would be the best of the Marvel movies, in my opinion. And it wouldn't be particularly close.
The family drama at the center of this movie is the glue that holds this movie together.
Thank you.
That's the thing that's going to keep me coming back to this movie.
Yeah,
that's why I'm divided about it, because it uses the multiversal fucking vehicle, but we've seen multiversal movies everywhere, and so it's like you said, it's the main story and fucking connectivity between characters that really makes this more original than any other multiversal movie I could think of I've ever seen.
There's some heartfelt scenes in this movie, I feel.
Oh, big time. Abso-fucking-lutely. I mean, just when, like, pretty much any of the scenes with her daughter, when her, they're not just fighting like that, those are all really good. And I really liked, I definitely agree with Joe that like the first half is better, like part one and up until part one. I thought that those parts of the movie were the best for sure. I like where the movie goes and I like how it ends and everything, but just like her daughter comes over and they're gonna have dinner or whatever, but then she's so busy still running the laundromat at the same time, and you can just get this sense that like, oh, this has been their life for so long, and we see that later in like some flashbacks, but like they've just been doing this like constantly, and that's why she's like, oh, Mom, it's always like this, like you know, just one more second or whatever, one more minute, like I think Knacker Jeff, you said like it really felt like actual like real life like a scenario like that, and I'd have to agree for sure. It definitely feels like that. Like this.
What I 100% bought the drama in all aspects of this family. One
Yeah.
thing that I didn't like was at the end of the movie when her and her mom have that big old discussion outside the car. The mom like turns around and is like, "Yeah, I do this, and I tell you that you eat too much, and I don't really pay attention to you, and I'm kind of a shitty mom, but like I'm not going anywhere." And it's like, I feel like she didn't learn enough. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we definitely get scenes of like her growing as like a wife and a mother, you know what I mean? Like she finally introduces the daughter and her girlfriend to the grandpa, and she like finally understands what Wayman contributes to like the relationship and what he does and how he's like behind the scenes holding everything together while she's bouncing all over the place. In that conversation, which is supposed to be at like the core of this movie, I feel like there wasn't enough change reflected in Evelyn in the way that she talked to her daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I still enjoy what I piece together as the moral of this movie, you know? The what I really get out of it is that we should I'm going to refer to a couple things here. The small googly eyes that show up in this movie are referencing the fact that we should notice the small things we have in life and learn to love those things, whether it's fucking hot dog fingers or, you know, really small things, and learn to enjoy the small things that we really appreciate in our lives, because trying to think about everything everywhere all at once is darkness. Is just puts you in it puts you in anxiety.
They're also a representation of Wayman's way of thinking too, and the way that he approaches life. And I think he represents that for Evelyn and for the family. Like,
absolutely.
Like that he's just the polar opposite of how Evelyn feels and how her daughter feels. He's just, everything is bright and sunny, and he's always trying to find, that's why he's putting the googly eyes on everything to put smile on everybody's faces. Yeah. At the end, when she like adopts his way of thinking and approaching the fight, that's when she puts the googly eye on her forehead.
Yeah. He's the hero of this movie. He is, to me, he's kind of the hero.
But he doesn't need to be represented as the hero like a Marvel movie would. He doesn't need to be standing in front of the fucking screen being like, I'm the big beating on my chest. You know what I mean? Like, he just supports Evelyn and just like supports the family and is just okay with her taking center stage and like being in front. And
that it's going back to the moral. It's fucking kindness and acceptance are the biggest answers to life. Like just being accepting of things that are happening is the best way you can, is because overthinking it or fucking bitching and moaning doesn't solve shit.
Yeah, I almost, and we've had this discussion a few times about a few different movies, but it almost feels like this should have just been two separate movies, right? I don't think the multiversal action-y movie would have been as good without all the other stuff thrown in, but the movie that is just about their family drama, and like if it was like another like 45 minutes of that but then cut out all the other stuff, I feel like that movie would have been top tier. But it also probably wouldn't have won.
I would be inclined to agree if the multiverse wasn't used as artistically well as it is in this movie. I like how it's represented aesthetically. I like a lot of the choices that they make, like cutting to them as rocks and pinatas and drawings.
Yes.
I really like how this movie looks. And I think even if the jokes and some of the choices that it make don't land, I think this movie is just pleasant to watch.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yep. I can definitely agree with that. I mean, like I said earlier, I was definitely, happy watching this. I liked it all. The kind of weirdness of this kind of movie is like right up my fucking alley. And that's part of what, like obviously it was everywhere and everybody's been talking about it, and so like you kind of got to like know that it's a thing. But just from watching like the trailer, I was like, okay, I can kind of see how this would work for me. And then after watching it, I was like, yeah, this is some weird ass shit, and the weirder it gets, the more I'm in. I like to cite that movie that we watched at Knack's. I can never remember the name. Knack, what, like something Rockers or something? Holy Roller. What is it?
Holy Motors.
Yes.
Did you watch Holy Motors here? Really?
I think that's the one with like the weird like dude who plays several different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
all watched that. You, me,
Okay,
Jeff,
you're right.
and a couple other people, I think.
Burton
and,
was here. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And
I recall that.
and that movie is so fucking weird and similar in a few ways, right? Like, because it's it's seeing like different kind of aspects of this guy, like going about his life, which we kind of see in this movie with like the multiversal stuff. But the point I'm trying to get at is like that kind of really fucking weird ass shit. Like I'm all about it, baby. Fucking Titan, totally up my alley because it's so fucking strange. And I think this movie definitely captures a lot of that, and more importantly, brings that kind of shit to more of a mainstream audience because this movie was just so big and had enough of that actiony shit to draw in, some of the more I'm just gonna say quote unquote plebeian peoples in our society. As I look down upon them from my ivory tower. No, I'm just fucking around, but for real, like I want to see more movies like this get huge, right? Like that's just good for society in general if these kind of movies are really successful and everywhere. And I'm just seeing that this is a Russo brothers movie. I just saw that now.
Wait,
So
Not
it's
produced.
Maybe produced,
Oh.
yeah,
Daniels
produced.
made this movie.
Which I mean, so this is part of the MCU. That
I knew it.
yeah, you fucking good eye, Joe. You fucking.
I'm the only one who's made that observation.
I mean, that's why we keep you around, Joe. You've just got those cutting observations. So
I do want to talk about or better articulate my point about the over sentimental aspects. I think the rock scene is the best representation of that.
I love
Perfect.
that. I do.
You love the rock scene?
I do. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Joe's like, "Are you fucking
Personally.
kidding me? That was the worst scene of the movie." That's like,
I love it.
Yeah. I feel like it's just pointless. Like
oh, rough, dude. Really?
it's one of the rocks says, "Small stupid humans." It's like our whole deal. I just think it's bad writing, bad dialogue, and it's insane that it's rocks talking.
I love it. Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean,
bit too much. Yeah.
I can agree with that, but I also adore that scene. So I don't know.
It's also
I'm at a crossroads here.
it's also the quietest scene in the movie, and
Well,
one of
yeah.
the first times since the beginning of the movie that I feel like they actually connect in some way. And I think the
Yes.
fact that it's quiet and they start to build that connection right there is
The two rocks are connecting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
So cute. It's just them in another universe, right? Like that's what
Because
it is. So.
in every other universe except the primary universe that we are introduced to, they're against each other. They're fighting, and the rock scene is one of the very few, if not only, scenes where they're, like you said, they're connecting. They're actually building dialogue between each other. But I do see your side of it there, Joe.
You don't have to worry about anything. Just be a rock. That's like a motivational poster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it totally
yeah.
is. Just hang in there.
One thing I felt weird about was the fake ending scene. I
There's a few.
really didn't like the fake ending scene when they cut to credits, but they're in the movie theater.
Yo.
Oh, right.
I really wasn't for that because as a viewer, I don't think that scene is necessary. I feel like it's leaning towards people who are gullible to that kind of thing. I hate to say it, but I imagine some people are like, what? That's the end of the movie? And I'm like, no, that's clearly not the end of the fucking movie, you idiot.
Yo, this movie's fourth wall breaks, I probably could have done without. Like when it's cutting to her like as an actress and it shows her like on the red carpet for Crazy Rich Asians and it's got like posters of her and like Crouching Tiger and like
I like that editing. I like the editing of that kind of thing, but
yeah, it's represented really well. But or like Wayman's fanny pack because he was Data. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Well, I didn't even pick up on that. That's great, actually. But no, that's fucking rough. I actually really loved the scenes of it cutting to like her real life, like that. I don't know. The way that I look at it is like, yes, that's like funny or weird in the context of the movie, but more importantly,
It's incorporating IRL activity into this movie.
Yes,
that's what I liked. If that's what where you're going with that, that's
not where I'm going with it. But I like that too. I definitely like that too. What I'm trying to get at, and it's kind of hard for me to put this into words. And I did just wake up from a nap right before we did this, so maybe that's not helping. That is like a perfect example. Well, maybe not a perfect example, but it shows how she is that actress in real life, like in our real life, right? Let's just step aside from the movie for a second, okay? But then she plays this character in the movie. But in another universe, in our infinite multiverse, that is a real person who really does go through those things. And vice versa for that version of her, the version of her that is a movie actress and super famous is a real person who experiences things, right? But more importantly, it kind of God damn it, there's not really a good way for me to word this I can think of. It almost gets down to the nitty-gritty of like real imposter syndrome, right? Like that's what I feel like that's almost what that scene is showing in a way. And maybe that's not what the writers were intending or anything, but that's kind of how I looked at it because I deal with that a lot in my day-to-day because I've always had a lot of like like image issues and shit, and now that I kind of have a job where a fair amount of people rely on me to do things and I don't think that I'm capable of them even though I know I am, right? Like and I am very capable at my job and do it every day, and I get told multiple times by people like, "Oh, you're doing a great job, blah blah blah." But like that's imposter syndrome, right? Like you don't know that you're doing a good job. You don't feel like you are. And I don't know that whole kind of scene like when it cuts to her like you know, in the back of that car or whatever, and she's wearing like the nice dress and everything, and then when the movie ends, quote unquote, and then it pans back and she's in the theater, all of that felt like what imposter syndrome feels like to me. That's the best way I can describe that.
If this movie makes you feel good, then that's good.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was their intent. I mean, and eventually this movie like ends like in a pretty good way, right? And it is kind of, I don't know, motivational necessarily, but it's like, hey, like you can always fix things, it's never the end, all that kind of stuff. But like that scene especially, like it probably wasn't even their intent to hit that way, but that's just how I viewed it at the time when I was watching it last night. Was like, okay, this is kind of showing how, you know there are many different aspects to our lives and aspects that we haven't ever lived and may never live, but we could have. The point I'm trying to make is like it's interesting to me that they're showing like boom, here's like this extremely successful version of her that also isn't necessarily happy with the way her life is when we see her talking to Huy Quan outside of the movie theater or whatever after the movie and all that. And the version that we are the main real version of Evelyn, right, that we're supposed to believe is the one, quote unquote, is this one that was just like had a relatively shitty life from what a lot of people would foresee. By the end of the movie, she realizes like, hey, my life's not that bad and I can make it better in ways and so on and so forth. I don't know. I really liked the aspects of that brought to the movie. I felt obviously the movie doesn't need to rest on that. It's got plenty of other great shit going on, but it's kind of all those little things that add up to make a really great movie for me. I definitely think this movie, like I said, it needed to be an hour longer and yet feel an hour less long because by the end of the movie it felt like 20 minutes too long, and yet there was still so much more they could have said and done. And that's why I was kind of like, if you could almost maybe not cut out the multiversal stuff, but just cut out like the fight scenes and like her daughter being the big bad and everything, and just make it more about like almost like a not, and I'm not saying this in like a negative way, but like a drug trip kind of thing, right? Like where you're going into these different multiverses to see like different aspects of your life to learn more. Is that a movie? Has that been a movie before? Like where somebody goes into different versions of themselves and like lives different versions of their selves so that they can get perspective and stuff? Because if not, that should be a movie. And that's pretty much what this movie is, but
can't think of one.
Yeah, I don't think there is a movie besides this one. And I think this movie would have been a lot better if it had just mainly focused on that kind of stuff. But, they wanted to hit that kind of, blockbustery movie status, I guess, with the action and everything. And they had the people for it, so why not? But I'd like to see a movie. Maybe they could make another movie set in this universe that was more of a down to earth kind of exploratory, uh, you know, a bit more of an artsy film kind of thing. I think I'd really like
You're
that.
saying we need an EEAAO CU?
I
'Cause
mean,
I think that's a terrible idea.
I think that is a terrible idea, but I do think that aspects of this movie could be used for another movie in a much better way. Um, and it would kind of maybe assuage. I don't know how you say that word. ASSUAG assuage.
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
Assuage, kind of assuage, the way that Joe felt about the movie, like his issues with it, especially that it was very MCU-esque. Assuage, assuage. I think that could kind of help with like some of the issues that Joe felt with the movie, and I'm sure a lot of other people did. Um, but then it probably wouldn't have reached nearly as big of an audience. Probably wouldn't have been as considered as big, all that kind of shit. So
For sure.
you kind of got to balance those scales there, right? Because they got to make their money back. So and then some.
One thing I haven't heard mentioned really, and I just want to make sure we touch on before we move on, is how much I love Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie.
Oh my god!
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, she just chewed the scenery in this movie.
So
She's
good.
having the time of her life.
God, she is just kind of the best, isn't she? I wish she was in more movies. I suppose she had a hell of a year this year, though, didn't she? Because for the last like couple of years, because she did like the Halloween remake, I think, didn't she? Like,
yeah, she was in the last two Halloween ending movies, I guess.
And I feel like I saw her in a couple other trailers for things that were bigger movies. I can't remember what, but I suppose I can always just use this handy dandy internet thing.
Yeah, her costume was so good. I mean, like a pea soup green sweater, saggy tits, bad haircut, bad glasses. She has a wrist brace.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just letting it all hang out, and good for her.
Playing the piano with her feet.
It's funny because she feels like when you first get there, it's like, oh, this is like the classic IRS, DMV style, like just shit person that you have to deal with, right? That we've all seen a million times in a million different movies and shit. But then I don't know, she makes it work for sure. That's just how good fucking Jamie Lee Curtis is. She's so good.
Yeah, I was looking at her recent filmography too. Knives Out, she was cool in Knives Out.
Yes. Yeah, okay, I guess she didn't really have a whole lot. It was literally just those two trailers. But either way, I'm glad she was here. She what's her name? Deirdre Bo Beardra. That's her fucking name in the movie.
Crazy.
One of my
Good God, this movie is outrageous.
It just jumped up a few points in Ort's book.
Yeah, oh, big time. If you could throw a funny name in there and I didn't even know till I look at the wiki page, we're doing good.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is where her and Evelyn are ripping that vape outside of the laundromat towards the end of the movie. That felt so real to me.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a lot of that in this movie, right? Like there's so many times where they just cut to like something, or like they get to like the next scene and you're like, yeah, this is pretty down to earth. They're actually capturing something important here. But
I totally agree. Yeah, about that.
But it gets so distracted by all the other stuff, like the action movie that's going on, which is also a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, man, I'm so torn now. Am I going to give this movie a 5 out of 10? Fuck.
If I'd give this a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 is middle of the road.
I know, it's just hard for me because now that I'm thinking about it more and more, I'm like, God, what could have been, right? Like there should have been 2 movies here, and then you could have just thrown the one in the garbage and just kept the artsy, more down to earth exploratory film. I feel like that. I don't know. My movie tastes have evolved so much over the last couple of years as we've done this club too, because I definitely used to be like just a like Marvel douchebag, and it helps that like Marvel movies aren't fucking very good anymore too, so I've kind of had to push back from that. But I've always kind of been like, yeah, it's got to be like, like Blockbuster. Those were the movies I wanted to watch. Artsy was just kind of boring to me, but now I'm like, oh yeah, no, like High Life.
I think
That's like top tier movie for me right now. I'm pretty sure that's in my top 10 movies of all time. That
High
movie,
Life?
yeah, the one
Really?
with Robbie P.
Yeah,
in
okay,
space
all right.
with a black dude.
That's cool. That's cool.
I fucking loved that movie. That it I don't know. There was a few scenes in the movie that were meh, but like for the most part, just the way that it explores the effect that being stuck in space, heading towards a black hole at near light speed would have on a like human being. Well, there's also a crazy scientist lady trying to like breed you and shit. Like I don't know that's such an interesting concept to me, and I feel like something that may eventually happen. Probably not exactly like that, but I don't know.
I'd
I
be
love that kind
inclined
of
to
artsy
agree
shit.
with your takes on this movie and it being two movies if the science fiction multiverse aspect of it wasn't a direct reflection of the characters' mental states and
Yeah,
thus a way to explore their mental states in a visual and entertaining way.
agreed. Yes, I can definitely agree. All right, I'm back in, baby. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't think it's better if it's two movies, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying like I almost wish, God, as fucking dumb as that sounds, I do want another movie set in this universe, or at least using the themes that this movie alone used. Because we can't think of another movie that did that, right? Explored multiversal versions of you and
Two
you experience.
everywhere, two everything, all at twice.
Yes. All right, we got there. Shut it down. Podcast is over, boys.
It's about family.
We got all right. And there's got to be Corona bottles every fucking where. Every Corona bottle, everywhere, all at once. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad this movie got so much discussion though. Like I really liked. I'm glad I picked this one. I really didn't have like a good pick either, and I was just like, oh, I've been wanting to watch this movie since I heard about it. Let's fucking watch that.
Couple things I want to say I've just mentioned that I liked about it. I thought that soldier, the SWAT soldier, was John Hawkes. I thought it was John Hawkes who plays Saul in Deadwood. It looks just like him, but it's not him because he's taller. The guy in this movie is taller and more built and more of a stuntman actor.
It does look a lot like him.
I really love Evelyn's fucking red sweater at the party that says punk on it with the wings on the sleeves. That sweater has my attention in every scene she's wearing it. I love that fucking sweater. For fuck's sake, that sweater is gold. And I also kind of just somehow just now pieced together that Joy's hairstyle, like Alpha Joy's hairstyle in like what I would call the treasure room or the ceremonial room where the everything bagel is, her hairstyle is shaped like the everything bagel. It's a big black circle on the top of her head. I'm just now noticing that.
Yeah.
I want to know what that fucking bagel tastes like, for fuck's sake. I want to take a bite out of that bagel and kiss reality goodbye.
What do you think would happen if you went into the bagel? Would you be done?
Yeah, you would be swallowed by infinite darkness and despair. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I gather out of it. God, he looks so much like John Hawkes. Never mind. I'm sorry. Sorry. I tend to have these movies running while we're doing the podcast, so I'm seeing scenes come across here and there. Anyway, just now and like the drawing to the conclusion of the movie here.
Yeah, this sweater is awesome. I just found an image of it.
That sweater is fucking just the punkiest fucking thing I've seen in a movie.
I somehow didn't notice
because she's
in the
wearing
middle of the movie, but
so yeah. Do we cover all our bases, or we?
I think so. I don't have much more to say about this movie. I just yeah. I don't know. I liked a lot of what they had going on here, but I definitely do feel. I want fuck, man.
Don't say it will.
To everything, to everywhere, all at twice. It's got to happen now. If I write a script, bet your fucking ass. But when we're all famous in 20 years and we get like movie credits and stuff and we get to be producers, that's the movie script I'm pushing. That's gonna happen, right? Right, guys? It's just the Anakin smiling meme. Right? Yeah, let's do some fucking ratings. Yeah, I'll go first. 8 out of 10. I really like this movie. I thought it was great. But yeah, I've made my feelings quite clear. I wanted a different movie. I wanted this movie, and then I want a fucking other movie set in this universe, or at least using those same those same plot devices. I think it would work so well for just deep diving into the human psyche, even more so than this movie could have possibly pulled off, because it was an action movie too.
I'm kind of in line with you. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. And not because I wanted a different movie. I can never say that I want a different movie. I did expect something different. I don't know exactly what I expected, which is simply a fault of my own, just expecting anything in a movie going in blind. But yeah, deductions were pretty much addressed about some of the setups not landing and the jokes just kind of being pulled from a hat. But still, this is a joy to watch.
I give it like a
8 out of 10 for me too. Oh,
okay.
I'm just talk right over Joe.
That's okay. I'll edit one of us out. I give it a.
Yeah, keep doing it.
Shut up, Jeff.
Man, this is real good content.
All right, I'd give it a 6 out of 10 because there's, like I said, a lot I like about it. But the things I don't like about it annoy me even more because of this, in spite of this movie's success, the overhyped nature of it and the low effort humor. And not mad it exists. I certainly appreciate original movies.
Yeah, I'm also giving it an 8 out of 10. While a lot of the humor and stuff did hit for me, I could appreciate how it couldn't hit for everybody. And at times it definitely felt a little too quote unquote meta with fourth wall breaks and the like. But overall, I very much enjoyed this. I could watch this movie again, no problem. I have fun watching this movie. I like it a lot.
Agreed.
If you like the family drama of this movie, another movie that I would recommend would be The Farewell.
Okay.
It's got Aquafina in it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And we love her.
I'll drop a trailer for it in the chat, but it kind of hits on some of the same notes in a way, but without all the kung fu fighting and shit.
Oh yeah, everybody was kung fu fighting in this movie, and those cats.
All right, that's a wrap.
Okay.
Shut it down.
Jamie Lee Curtis was fucking sumo wrestling and shit.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking dual kicks and fucking. Oh man,
that shit was fire.
All right, so next time, since we're just recommending whatever movies we want, we're doing a run of personal recs, as we say.
Yep.
I'm going to recommend The Sting. It's a movie from 1973.
Ooh. I've been wanting to see this movie. I have been wanting to see this movie for a bit, actually, because a lot of my family talks about it. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when we started this, it was a year ago that the first episode, Night of the Hunter, was. And at the time, I said I'm either going to go with that or The Sting.
Huh.
But crazy. It stars Paul Newman and Robert Redford. It's a classic heist caper movie. And the question I'm going to ask you is, what makes on-screen chemistry? And I think you guys are going to love it.